and welcome back to Project Independence and You Community Talk Radio on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. I'm Rebecca Miller along with Otto Lose and Kristina Lou. We're now in our Talk of the Town segment where Kristina is going to let us know what's going on in the town. And also Project Independence. There's always something going on. We're always very, very busy. Great guest, a lot of information. You know, sometimes when you have a guest on from a particular area, even though the point being was, you know, heat programs and services, there was so much more great information. And I love all the savings tips. That's one of my favorite things. And especially so much of it is common sense, right? But to put a dollar value on the savings of cold water versus a hot water wash, where you save 50 cents per wash. I mean, if you're doing, you know,
Yeah,
5, 6, 7 washes a
it
week.
adds up, right? You know, so you hear, you take for granted, oh, I'm just gonna do it. But then when you really, and it's so true, to get that, value of, because everyone's like, oh, I'm just gonna do a load of laundry and, not think too much about it. But I mean, all these little things, like so many things in life, really add up. And I think, the overall theme too is how important it is to really like maintain things, especially when you own a house. So there's these little things that you can do that really can preserve the life, right? So changing these filter, calling a company obviously to check. I mean, we have every time like the winter season comes, we have our oil company come in, they check out everything, make sure, everything's running smoothly. And I mean, and that's included in our contract. And, so I think it's really important to do these things because so many things can be, avoided by, having these things and all these I mean, there's so many different services that National Grid, obviously if you're a gas user, offers. So it's I think it is important because listen, I know firsthand that these phone calls that start to come in, the weather is changing, or maybe it's not, considering that this weekend's supposed to be very high, but that we get these calls from seniors and they say, oh my God, my oil is running out, I can't pay my bill. So it's so important to really shed light on these programs because the costs are expensive. I mean, we have a running joke in our house when the oil bill comes, we're all like dreading, like passing it around, like who's going to open it? Like nobody wants to know. And then we'll place bets on like what the amount is, because I mean, it's such a crazy amount a lot of times.
You
So,
got to go on
and
the
I
budget
will
plan.
work. What'd you say?
You have to go on the budget plan so you know what it's going to be.
Well,
Well, we're on a contract hours,
Right.
so we have, we don't want to pay a month more, because listen, on the summer we're not really using stuff. So,
Right.
and bless my husband's little heart who, is able to really kind of time all of that because, sometimes, when it's a cold winter, it's like, wow, so
though,
it's important to know about these
there's a
programs.
flip side to this whole thing, all right, about saving like that list, all right. When I grew up, a lot of people didn't have air conditioning. They didn't have this. They had like two lights in the whole house. It was a different planet. And when air conditioning came along, a lot of people who
Yeah.
were in the older generation were very conscious of doing things to save on their
Right.
electric bill. So they'd rather sit in a 90-degree room than pay for the air conditioning. They would rather have one light on in the whole house than have enough light so that they don't fall over something because it's too dark. They will rather have the room be cold and have blankets on. So there's a real fine line here
No, you're
between
right.
Yeah.
saving
Yeah.
costs and ruining your health.
No, absolutely.
And I think the older, I mean, I can tell you, I got a list of people I can remember who sit in heat like unbelievable. And the same thing with the cold in reverse. So I think common sense was used by you, Rebecca, that you got to have common sense too. It's just not healthy. You may have to invest a few bucks to put the air conditioner on, as opposed to maybe causing a real major health problem. So all I'm saying is there's a flip side to this saving thing. You can save, but you also have to have common sense about maybe I do have to pay for a little bit of air conditioning, not a little bit, a lot, It's
Right.
expensive.
Mhm.
I didn't want it to get like you can go bananas about cutting down on your electric
No.
bill, and you really have to kind of shift a little bit on both sides.
Right. Otto, I feel like, what was going on in my head too is I was looking forward to kind of us having our talk and the generations. I think Christina and I are about the same difference in age that you and I are. Maybe we're a little closer in age, Christina, I think. But I remember growing up and some things, where I always remember turn off the lights, like turn off the lights, turn off the lights. So there was always this in the back of the head, you turn off your lights. Yet I grew up in a time where it was all about conserving water. Like you did not waste water. And I'd be in the kitchen or we'd be at an event and all my aunts and my mother's generation older all had the water running. Like they would go, they'd, be doing dishes, they'd walk into the kitchen, talk to each
Yeah.
other, sponge down the table, and the water's running in the kitchen still, and the sink's running, and it's just split. And to me, it tortured me. So I would turn off I would always turn off the water. Like why are you wasting so much water? It's water. It's not endless. We need it. But and then other things, like I think when it actually hits the pocket, we just back in the day, our water bill was like nothing. It really was
Yeah.
very low growing up. It wasn't, kind of what it is today. It's still not the highest bill. It's far from the highest bill that I have, but it is a lot more than it was kind of percentage wise, I guess, when I was growing up. So it wasn't really a thought, but I thought about it as conserving water. Like there's not this endless supply of clean, unchemicalized, polluted water. And I think the generation, like my mother's generation, thought was about saving money. Because you guys we didn't have all of, keeping it green. I mean, that really started, I think, when I was younger.
Yeah.
And that kind of thing. So it's just kind of things I'm thinking of. And I'm thinking to myself, Christina, Otto's household, when all the kids were together and home or in different places, what were your bills like? And did you kind of talk to
I could not
them?
imagine it.
Did you talk to them about, watching the war, turning off the lights? Would you think I own, the electric company? Like, I mean, comments like that with the door open and the air conditioner was on. I mean, I have come home literally. I have to just tell you this one thing. I get very cold easily. My kids love the house freezing. So sometimes in the fall, like this weekend, I might have the heat on in the nighttime. And I'll wake up in the middle of the night and they don't even check and they'll have the central air on. So I've got the heat on and it's like inside I'm just fuming.
Rough.
Do you understand what's happening here?
Rough.
Well, you asked what was it like, all right? Let's start out with this, all right? We had 8 cars in the house at one time
Oh my
because they
God.
were all just in that bracket, all right? And people used to joke that we had fleet insurance for the cars.
You had what insurance?
Fleet insurance, because
Okay.
we had 8 cars.
Got ya.
And where I lived at that time, Muncie Park, they had rules about you couldn't park out in the street at night. So we had a lot of rules about how long and short the car could be in order to fit 8 cars, say half on the lawn on both sides and in the middle of the driveway. But that's one point. Water was a joke, and yet fortunately it wasn't that expensive. You're right, but think about 8 people who take showers, and the boys and the
I couldn't
girls.
imagine.
A 3-minute shower is not adequate. You need, God knows. So you compound that with cesspools, and you got all these showers and washing machine running into. It was a disaster. And one daughter, who Jen, she loves it cold. All right. Somebody else likes it hot. So the cold for her is like 60 degrees. All right. So that it's an ongoing battle, and that's when you have a large family. when you have two people, it still can be a problem. Uh,
Right. Yes.
Everybody has a different approach to how to do things. And to me, water, like, I think we're both pretty conscious of it. Like when you're in the bathroom and you're doing your thing, you're washing your hands and you're doing your teeth and you're doing this and that and whatever. I will shut the water off in between these things just because I feel like it's a waste of water. You know, uh, how much is that helping or contributing? I have no idea. But to me, it doesn't really take a whole lot of effort to do that. So I do it.
Yeah, it's gallons add up quickly when the water's running and you're not using it. And I think it's great that you turn it off. I like, just going to throw this in, but now they have faucets, which are sensitive. So you put your hands under and water only comes out when your hands are there. So
Right.
there's
That's all
that.
good.
No, and that's the
I
thing
mean,
too, is that when you are in the market, obviously, everyone can't be going out buying all these smart new kind of things. But, I think that was in the first segment as well, that, when you are in the market to kind of need to get something new and stuff, because even like as I mentioned with these washing machines, now it's like they sense the size of the load. So you're not using this giant thing of water if you have a couple of items, so there really are luckily, things that kind of help without you even necessarily knowing, to kind of cut costs and stuff. Because I'm laughing with all of you because, in my house, we're in a mother-daughter situation. So of course I have my parents upstairs. My brother at one time had lived here too. And that was when we were, freshly in this house and we're trying, and this was the first time we ever had an oil bill. We all came from, gas prior. So I remember that, and my husband Jake, he literally always says to me, like, do I work for PSEG because I have the lights on all the time and stuff. So, but it's just to always balance the temperature. And then, my parents, they're older, so they can get cold, but then it also gets hotter upstairs in the way. So it's balancing all of these things that I could super relate to everything everybody is saying. And I think that it really is, coming to a group consensus of how you're going to,
well,
Yeah.
conserve water and
every
oil.
generation, if you go back in history, think about what people spent money on 300 years ago and then
Yeah.
200 years ago. And then I look back when I was growing up, and um, there wasn't a lot of waste. My mother would sew patch holes in socks. Uh, if they sent a letter to Germany, which was like once in a blue moon because it cost a lot of money for air mail, and the letter had to be, it couldn't be this kind of paper. It had to be paper you could see through because it was lighter. And I'm not making this up. It would be like you could see through the paper almost. So it would be light, so they could save whatever 20 cents or So it's all relative to the times, really. I mean, what we waste today is mind-boggling. What we
There's that area, but I want to throw this out there at you too. There is a lot of waste today, no doubt, and it tortures me, but they don't make things to last either.
No.
I moved into my house, in this house that I'm in now, in 2004. The owner of the house told me the refrigerator was probably like she couldn't remember, about 8 years old at the time. It did really well. I think I've been in the house 20 years. So, I just got a new refrigerator last year. It just kind of went, it was freezing. It wasn't doing so it went, and I waited and I went to the store to get the new refrigerator, and I found out that it was even older than she said it was. So it was probably 22 years old. Never had a problem with it ever. I never had to do anything to that refrigerator. If it froze everything right, it refrigerated everything right. I never even had to change a light bulb. It just worked really well. So over 20 years. And I said, okay, I like this refrigerator. I decided I would get one with the water that comes out to save, because I was buying water bottles and I didn't want to do that anymore. So I got a refrigerator that had its own water fountain, ice maker, all that kind of stuff. So, it's efficient. And he goes, first thing he said to me was, well, how long, do you want to get, which warranty do you want on it? Told me what it covered. So I figured, okay, well, these ice maker water things do break. I said, he said, I wouldn't get more than, the 8-year warranty. And I said, well, why don't I just do 10? And he said, no, because they don't, because he literally said this. They don't make appliances to last longer than 8 years now. And 8 years, so you really don't need, after 10 years, you're not going to get a warranty. So in terms of waste, they made things back then specifically to last a long time. Car engines, everything was simpler. Now you have cars with computers. I mean, we all know the story. So what you're saying though, with this, right, phones every 3 years, batteries, this, so, though they make efficient light bulbs now. But that's my point. When I grew up, even furniture was, lasted. I mean, I still have my Aunt Millie's bedroom set, and it's, we've had it refinished, but nothing's broken on it. The doorknobs still are on there, right? And it's been moved several times. So I don't know. I just had to put that out there because
no, it's very true. That's a great point as well.
Are we wasting or are things just not made to last like they used to?
I think it's a combination, right? Because listen, I love a paper plate, right? When we grew up, there was always paper plates. We were on the go, paper, and then you think about all the waste, and then that kind of got brought back to life during COVID. Right, because nobody wanted to reuse everything. Everything was like, let's have. I mean, look, they tried to get rid of the plastic bags and then kind of brought it back during COVID, and then got rid of it again because nobody wanted to reuse things. So I think about that all the time, like because it's so based. We're in a society where everything's kind of convenient too. You want easy, you're on the go. So it becomes so wasteful, all these things, and I think it's unless you're really sitting down to think about it and weighing what's more important to you, convenience or, not being wasteful. It's really an interesting whole kind of theory.
All right. Well, speaking of not being wasteful, we have to now go to a commercial break. I have no idea what that means, but we will be right back with Talk of the Town, Project Independence and You, Community Talk Radio on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. We'll be right back.
WCWP is your home for great music and great conversation. You'll find all that and more on WCWP.org. Listen live on the web, check out the lineup, subscribe to podcasts, and stay up to date on the latest station events. Get in touch with us and let us know if you like what you're hearing. And find out how you can support or get involved at the only community public radio station serving Nassau's North Shore. Plus, sign up to get a free bumper sticker. It's all online at WCWP.org.
And welcome back to Project Independence and You, Community Talk Radio on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. I'm Rebecca Miller, along with Otto Los and Christina Liu and Dan Cox, and we're in our Talk of the Town segment, or it should just be called Talk segment, because we're still kind of continuing from our guest talking about efficiency and waste and generational ways that we approached it. And I know, Otto, you were about to bring up.
Like one of the things that gets me is like we call up, we get Chinese takeout, and when my son is here, his two boys love the Chinese food when they come. But within that 2 bags of food are 80 packets of what's the stuff like
soy sauce or mustard?
Yeah, like soy sauce, duck sauce, yes.
Honey,
mustard,
whatever, and
noodles.
And there's
right.
all these packs and bags of noodles and whatever, and we don't use any of it. So, or even frankly, even some of the fast foods like the McDonald's of the world, you go in there and you get. It's not as bad in those places lately. I think they wised up. But
I know, because you actually need to ask for like additional stuff now. Like, they'll give you one barbecue sauce. They're not giving you like a handful.
That makes sense to me. I mean, okay, so I have to ask. But that's better than getting 12 packs of something that I'm just going to throw in the garbage. That's it. We're just generating more garbage and more waste. And is that good for the economy? Probably, because somebody made those 12 packs of soy sauce. So I think part of this whole thing, this waste of generations, where appliances aren't made to last and whatever. There's a little bit of an economy thing in there where, okay, instead of making one refrigerator, they got to make 3 refrigerators to last as
Yeah,
long as the one that lasted your 22 years.
right.
That's right.
Now they
That's
got to make
absolutely
3
right.
refrigerators that last 8 years each.
Yeah, no,
So
and you
there's
made like a great point about the cell phone too, because I mean, listen, we've all been there when all of a sudden our cell phone and it seems like it's shorter and shorter. The battery's not charging as much, it's being glitchy, so you're like forced to now have to get the new, phone, and so there's just so many things like that, so that's why it is important to when you can kind of figure out ways to save money and kind of help the environment. Because I always feel this way after all of our time when we've talked about, recycling in the town, it's like you really realize like, oh my gosh, how much waste is being produced, and it's because like I said, we're all just going and going, and then you're like, oh, you don't really stop to think like, what am I, I'm like looking around my house, I got things that are like plugged in. I'm like, is there something I could like unplug in this house? So it is, I just think it's being mindful, right, about all these wasteful things and different stuff that you could do. And I feel the same way. It's like, I feel like guilty, like just tossing a handful. And then on the flip side, if I save it, my husband's like losing his mind, like, oh my God, why are you saving all these little packets? I'm like, you never know if you might need it. But it's definitely something
but the
to think
chances are you won't need it.
It's very true. Except I did dig into some ketchup packets the other day because I ran out of ketchup. So I said, "Here, see if I didn't have these saved, we wouldn't have ketchup." So
Yeah,
it's
but
really
it's still a waste. That's the bottom line.
it is. No,
Yeah.
absolutely. You're
On
right.
one
So
hand, with Chinese food or a lot of other foods now, I never have to buy Tupperware again because so many
see,
of
great point. See, that's you're reusing, Beck. See, there you
that
go.
and even Italian food, they come with the
Yeah.
containers that are plastic, and a lot of people throw them away. I mean, I have
Yeah.
one cabinet that is just like in size order of all of my plasticware, and like
Yeah.
so if I have a Seder at my house or
Right.
holiday dinner or barbecues and people want to take home, I get to recycle it. I mean, I'm
Absolutely.
it,
Do you
it
have matching tops?
of course.
Yeah,
With a
because
special
that's around in
draw. All
my
the
house. That
tops
seems to be an
go. Yeah.
issue.
Oh no,
Does,
matching
oh,
tops.
this
Yeah.
top doesn't fit. Oh, okay.
Well, no, I
Let's
mean I'm
try this
talking
top.
about like the pint containers and the
Yes.
you get like a dinner in and you keep them all together
They're
and
usually like black with like a clear top. I know I'm picking up what you're
yeah,
but
exactly.
see,
No,
but you reused, and I like that. So,
yeah,
you're finding little ways to kind of repurpose things. So,
correct.
needless to say, we could talk about this all day long, but I think it just shows you how important it is to really talk about these different topics and just bring light to great programs that are available because I think a lot of us out there, don't realize, I mean, that whole host of different programs and there's so many based upon what kind of situation you might be in. So,
Mhm.
we were talking obviously about our national grid segment where we talked about HEAP and heat and what is the difference between HEAP and heat. Um, that was the first hour of the show. If you missed that, please check it out, obviously, on our website or on North Hempstead TV as well. Next week, we are actually going to have on one of our radio show favorites, Dr. Larry Cardano, who is our doctor of audiology. He's been on a bunch of times. He's going to talk about technology in hearing. There's a lot of different advances. I know Otto is well versed in a lot of these things as well. So Larry will come on and kind of give us some updates on that. We also have coming up American Red Cross service to the armed forces. The Hero Care Network is this really wonderful program out there. And then we're having Northwell Health has a military liaison person. So they will be on too, giving us some updates. So, and we have a bunch to come in December. I'm in the middle of booking those as well. So, of course, if you missed any of it, please go to the WCWP YouTube page or the Project Independence website. Everything is archived. And you could always call 311 if you or 516-869-6311 if you've missed any of this information. So
And YouTube is very good.
yeah, it's just,
YouTube.
it's really, since we've been doing that, is my favorite because it's so easy for me now to share things and and all the guests that are on, they love it because then they're able to share things very easy. So it's a win-win for all. So I'm really glad. And then you could see us, moving. You don't just hear our voices. You see the full package of the team. Really good stuff. And in addition to that, Otto, I hope you have received your Pioneer newsletter.
I just got it yesterday, actually.
Good. Glad to
And
hear that.
interesting, I walk on Sunday mornings, Jones Beach, and a couple of the ladies that walk live in Westbury, but not in the Hempstead, not in the North Hempstead part, but they got the newsletter.
Yeah, it's so people are on that border a lot of times, they're just going by zip code that, it can, get, gray area.
There is
But that's obviously
crossover with the zip
right.
code. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
New Hyde Park is in that category.
Right.
Yes.
Yep.
There's some of it's in Hempstead, some of it's in North Hempstead, and actually, I think some of it might even be in
Queens. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. But
So
you know
it's
what?
a
The
nice.
lucky person that gets that Pioneer, not everything is just about North Hempstead, so they can get some great information outside of just the
Well, I
North
actually
Hempstead
took the
events.
time to read the whole thing, and it
I'm
was good.
glad.
Yeah, very
Well,
good.
I'm glad to hear.
Right here.
Yeah.
I am so glad to hear. So we are referring about our Pioneer newsletter. Beck has it. I can't wait to see this is just my printout one. I've not been in the office, so I'd like to see the hard copy. Such great information. There's a whole segment on, is it dementia, Alzheimer's, or just normal aging? Here's how to tell the difference. That was submitted by Northwell. We, of course, have a fabulous article from Otto called Help Keep Happy Memories Alive. We have a blurb about Medicare open enrollment, 10 Ways to Love Your Brain, which is my personal favorite one. Of course, we have the radio show. We have some tips about how to kind of make smart, healthy choices during the holidays. We have a article on the Mind Diet, which is about promoting brain health. It's really some great tips and tricks. And I love how to do this diet on a budget is also in there too. And then, of course, we have all of our events and programs. Great information. If you do not listen, it's trickling, and I know that it's hitting because I was away for a few days, and this morning I was checking my emails, and I have so many service requests that were called into 311 from people either having questions, and a lot of people are asking to sign up for the e-newsletter, because in the Pioneer I said if you are interested in the monthly e-news to call. So I'm getting a lot of calls, so I know
Right.
people are receiving, which is
So not only are they receiving it, they're reading it, and they're using it,
exactly.
and they're
Exactly.
absorbing
They're
it.
not
That's
just
great.
tossing it in the garbage.
Yeah.
So
My
I'm really
concern with the Pioneer, going right back to the beginning when your mother was involved, Rebecca, was that if they made it look like a political document by putting too much politics right on the front page, it's going to go right in the can, and it won't even get to the second page. So I think it's been pretty good at that. It is not a political document. It is an
right.
information and document that has a lot of really good stuff in it
That's right.
about
Well, thank you for that.
life, about
It
what
is.
you
And I
go
think
through.
it's one of those things that, obviously there's events that are, kind of time sensitive, but most of it isn't. It's something that you could refer to. And I love that I get calls from people year round saying, like, I haven't received the Pioneer, and they're not realizing the Pioneer only comes out twice, a year. So they're thinking that, it comes out, which I would really probably lose my mind if it came out more than that. But it's just great because people are actually looking to get the newsletter. So, and once again, if you have not received it, just call 311 or 516-869-6311. I will make sure your name is on the list. And if it's not, I will have the mailing company add it. So it's amazing. We got an updated list this go around. So we're at like over 58,000 people receiving it. So
That's
it's really
amazing. To kind of, we talked a little bit about this, I think, last time in terms of the number of people, the growing number of people 60 and older living in North Hempstead really matches, the silver
That's right.
tsunami. You've got more people now that are kind of leaning toward being older than 60 than under. So, and it
And it was
reflects in
like
that mailing list.
Yeah, and I can't remember the exact difference, but this is just like a brief showcase of it. So we got a new list in spring of 2023. Now in fall of 2023, we needed another list because the mailing company said, listen, there's a lot of, and this is even taking into account people who have either moved out of North Hempstead or, passed away, whatever it might be. There was like a 12,000 number difference and we were sitting there like, how is this possible? We just got a new list in spring, but it was just showing you that, here we are, that the amount of people that are turning 60, and it was just, I mean, we couldn't believe it at first. We're like, something has to be wrong, like, how is this possible in just, all these, a couple of months. So,
Well, back in
but
my
it was,
checkered
so
past, I was back when I was in marketing and sales, and the internet did not exist, email did not exist, so direct mail was a high level method of trying to contact people for promoting whatever. And the management of mailing lists is a very difficult task.
yeah,
Like you said, somebody moves to Florida. Well, how do you know that? Somebody's got to find that out. So
Right.
getting good quality mailing lists that are maintained as actively as possible. I guarantee you there's stuff that if they return anything with these kinds of mailings, I don't know if they do anymore, but if they return stuff, you want as low a return rate as
right.
possible.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
and it's not easy to
And
get
I
a
have to
good
say what's
quality
great,
list.
and I get a lot of phone calls too. Obviously, I said that people who want to be added. And once again, I want to repeat, there's only one newsletter per household. So, Otto and his wife Bunny are only theoretically supposed to receive one newsletter to their home. So the number is actually even greater if
That
people
number
that
must be so much higher, Christina. So if we're
right,
doing 58,000
right, right.
to a household, I mean, I don't, you got to say at least half of them have
Right,
probably
right.
two people that
Two
are
people,
older
right.
than 60, but
Mhm.
it's
Yeah, it's
a
amazing.
big number.
But what I also, people do call and say, listen, I moved out of North Hempstead and I'm receiving this, because they're still, getting their mail forwarded or whatever. So if there are any changes like that too, or sometimes they'll call and say, unfortunately, someone had passed, whatever it might be, call 311, because as Otto said, we really try and keep it, obviously we can't constantly get a new one because there's cost to it, but we try to, add and keep it as up to date as possible. So
I don't think it's a
once again,
resident. It's not a resident of this house kind of thing. Well, I didn't even look that close, to be honest with you, of the label. Is it resident or is it a name?
I think they put the name, like I think it'll say Otto Los on it. I'm not sure because they changed the new formatting. It used to say just, the household, but I think now, however it was, they figured out the company. I think it actually might say, you'll have to look because I'm not
I don't
totally
have it
sure.
here.
Because
It's downstairs where I looked.
yeah. But you'll have to let me know. I'm pretty sure it says one name, and I think that's why people were thinking that they weren't getting it because it'll say Otto, but it didn't say Bunny or something. So it's one of those situations. But also in the Pioneer is something I'm really trying to promote because I really really want people to take advantage of the Smart Van, which is the senior mobile access to resources and technology. Its technology does not have to be difficult. You are able to come on this smart van that is in partnership with the Family and Children's Association. It's going to be at Clinton G. Martin Park. There's technology training, connection to resources, informal counseling, but more importantly, you could also get assistance in applying for Medicare open enrollment. So they can go over different changes with you, show you, someone will sit with you. This is Tuesday, November 14th, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., Clinton G. Martin Park. No appointment necessary. You could even have a random question on your cell phone saying, like, how do I find this app? How do I find my password? Whatever it is, I get the questions all the time sitting in Clinton G. Martin Park. So now you'll actually have someone who could really sit with you one on one and kind of go over all of that. So once again, Tuesday, November 14th, 10 a.m. to
Now,
3 p.m.
interesting is I normally didn't. I have an Instagram account, but I didn't really use it that much. And I know, Christina, you
Yes.
use Instagram a lot,
Yes.
and
Mm-hmm.
some of my family does as well. So I said, okay, I'm going to get better at Instagram. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Like even liking something, I didn't really know how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I looked it up. It's not that complicated. You tap
There you
the
go.
screen.
That's it.
Yeah, but
That's it.
if somebody doesn't
Yeah,
tell
you
you
don't
that,
know.
how are you
Mm-hmm.
supposed to know that to like something,
Yeah.
you tap it? I mean, so you have to go out of your way to find it. That's
Yeah.
not an intuitive thing to me, you know. But my point being that this technological training is ongoing. I mean, I'm pretty good at it, and I'm always learning something now. I'm working on AI. Uh, where the people I work with and do the sales coaching have been using AI to create, uh, they wanted to have a, a drawing of a service person fixing a machine with a smile on their face about how great it was. So they put that in there and they got a tremendous drawing back
Mhm.
from this AI chat GPT thing.
Yeah.
That
So I
sounds
mean,
so cool. We actually have to take a quick break though, Otto, and then we'll get back to AI drawings. Sounds very interesting. We'll be right back with Project Independence and You Community Talk Radio on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. We'll be right back.
So I get this call from my grandma, and she's like,
"What's a podcast and how much does it cost?"
So I tell her, podcasts are like radio shows, but you can download them on any device and listen to them anywhere at any time, and they're free. And then she says,
"I see, but where can you find good ones?"
And I'm like, go to wcwp.org/podcast and check out the lineup of original shows, or download any podcast app on your phone or tablet and search for LIU Studios. And she's all like,
"Oh, that sounds easy."
and then she asked me what an app is.
LIU Studios podcasts, available on any podcast app. You know, those little button things on your phone screen. Just ask your grandkids.
And welcome back to Project Independence and You Community Talk Radio on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. I think we're in our final segment of Talk of the Town. So we're really getting a lot of information from Kristina. Otto, I know before the break you were talking a little bit about AI, and did you want to finish up?
Yeah, I just found it interesting. As I say, I still do what I call sales coaching for this one company, and they're on LinkedIn and they do a lot of different things. And what they wanted to do was have a picture of a service person who's smiling happily because they didn't have to do very much to fix this particular product. And they put that into the AI, one of the GPT things, whatever it is. And it came out with a tremendous, funny, nice looking cartoon with just that in like no time
Wow.
flat, you know. So, I mean,
It's amazing.
the technology is going to be scary in a lot of areas, but there's a lot of areas where that technology is going to be mind-boggling, particularly healthcare, you know, where they can take information from all over the planet about prostate cancer, let's say, and ask this AI, whatever, what's the best approach for prostate cancer for somebody who's this old, who has this kind of thing, takes this medication, the whole bit, and come up with the best solution based on billions of facts. You know, that's the positive use of it. I'd love for us to be able to get somebody who can really explain
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I've been looking for
what it
that.
really is.
I reached out to a bunch of, there was like this AI, like, and there was like a podcast and there was a professor, you know, I haven't heard back from them, but I have to follow up with everyone. But what's hard is that, you know, it's in so many realms of things, AI. So it's like, there's not really like one overall speaker that could like touch upon, like, cause it's in so many areas of our life, right? So we were saying healthcare, just, you know, basic things. I mean, look when I was mentioning during the break about Spotify, you know, and that was something trivial, you know, that there's this AI thing that can take all of my things that I've listened to and kind of play it throughout the years, you know. So I mean, there's so many different things. And then of course, unfortunately, we have the scam piece of AI.
Right.
You know, so it's a really complex thing. And it's hard because I was like, you know, trying to Google, you know, and it's hard because there's a lot of tech people that will talk about it, but you know, they are of course are going to have a different spin, you know, so it's trying to find someone who's, you know, unbiased to the whole thing. So it's
More of a
it's
broad look at it, not just related to a specific area.
right.
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 Just
But it's interesting. So we'll see you know, how it all goes. But I just want to quickly go over some stuff since we are in our last segment. The Medicare Part D chats that we have. The Great Neck Social Center one just closed, hot off the press. But there's still some some slots available for the Port Washington Adult Activity Center, which is Thursday, November 9th, and telephone appointments, which is Monday, October 30th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., once again, this is the Medicare Part D, which plan is right for you. They're individualized appointments where you talk to a pharmacist about what specific, medications you're taking and different changes. Last week, which feels like forever ago, we had on Barry Klitzberg, who went over, some changes in the open enrollment in 2024 Medicare. So once again, you could always call 311 and we can get you connected to Barry over at Family and Children's High Cap program, because it's very overwhelming. And of course, you could sit with someone in this program. So
No,
really important to do.
I can't say this often enough. All right. Just this past week, I saved $100 again by using like Good RX type of thing. These programs that you go away from your insurance if you have a higher priced medication, and there are a bunch of websites you can go to that have these kinds of things. And it was 135 something or other, and I got it for $34 with this
Wow.
other coupon. If I went through my insurance, it's 135. Don't go through the insurance, $34. You bring the coupon to, or put it on your phone, whatever, to the store, whatever your pharmacy. They change the bill, and you pay $100 less.
Wow.
It's just, and I can't tell you how much I saved this year just on that.
Yeah, and I know
You
you've
don't
been
even
talking
take
about that
much
for a very long
medication,
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't, it just can't be said enough. It's big
Yeah.
savings. They're not talking about a nickel or a dime or,
Of course.
you
Well, that's right. You heard it here first, everyone. Otto, I know you had some things you wanted to chat about. You mentioned during the break.
Well, one of them was you must have had a very enjoyable time. You talked about Spotify, and you went to Vermont. I
Yes, we
haven't
went
been
to
in
Vermont.
Vermont in years. It's a
Yeah, it was a
beautiful
great time.
state.
We went for my husband's birthday. So Saturday, my brother and his fiance had their Halloween party. So we did that. We were the Scooby-Doo gang. And then the next morning, my husband and I hopped and the dog packed in the car, went to Vermont. So we were there for just like Sunday, Monday. We were the Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. We came back last night. But I said Jay and I are really good at cramming everything in that we want to see to, a day or two. Luckily, we had some nice weather, and it was really nice to go because it's in this weird kind of off peak time, because the fall stuff is kind of, which even though they said there wasn't going to be leaves, I saw plenty of leaves, so that was a bonus. And then the winter stuff hasn't really started yet, so it was pretty kind of quiet, which was lovely. We stayed at a beautiful Airbnb that was right on like this creek, and it was just stunning. So the doggo had a great time exploring and being with his mom and dad. So we really had a lovely time, and it was just nice to kind of check out and be peaceful for a little bit. So it
Now, the
was
last
fun.
time I was in Vermont was, God, maybe 30, maybe more 40 years ago. And one of the things that struck me about Vermont was there was no advertising signs on any of the roads. Was that still the case? Or did they have, do you remember? There was
You
like a
know,
state law. You couldn't have ads on the road.
you think you're right. I didn't even click in my brain, but now that I'm thinking back, I don't, you really felt like you were in the country.
Yeah,
Like it was very
there's no
interesting.
advertising along the road.
Yeah, I didn't. I don't recall actually seeing anything because my husband, we've been to a lot of New England kind of places, and Vermont, where we stayed, it really felt like you were in like the country and away from everyone, and all is, but in true Christina fashion, she will find a gift shop, because that's my vacation. So my vacation is not complete ever since I was a little girl until I do a little shopping, and I needed maple syrup, I needed some Vermont cheddar. I mean, there's just things I needed in my life. So I got all those things, and of course I went overboard because I have like all these bags as I look at on my kitchen table right now, because I'm gone for 2 days, but I had to get my brother something, his fiance, my mom, my dad. It's like Christmas for everyone all the time.
But
So
if you
how
went
does
to
Jay?
Stowe, I guess you didn't get to go to Ben and Jerry's.
It was a little too cold for Ben and Jerry's. We didn't do that. We did eat, a
It's
lot of
never
baked
too
goods
cold for
though.
Ben and Jerry's.
There was a lot of pumpkin. We did a lot of pumpkin bread, a lot of pumpkin
Oh, that's
cheesecake,
good.
a lot of apple. There was a lot. Big on apple and cheddar. Apple and cheddar on a burger was delicious, I must say. So we learned some new things over there, but it was great. And we like to explore, kind of the Northeast over here. So it was fun.
The other one
like
is
a
a
good time.
complete reverse out of that was
Yes.
I've had people talk this week about pet insurance.
Mhm.
And you mentioned you do have pet insurance.
I do. Um, last week, I guess it was, I had discussed a little bit about our incident with our little puppy who's only 6 months, ate something, long story short, outside. We're not totally sure what it was, but he was very, very sick. We got pet insurance, luckily, because we just, mostly because my husband is my husband, so bless his little heart. But, when we had to take him to the animal hospital, they all said to us, do you have pet insurance? And we said, yes. I mean, listen, you have to pay up front and then they reimburse you. But they said, oh, that's great. So I was like, okay, wonderful. Now, I think we pay about like $30 a month, we'll say. I think it's give or take around that amount for the one that we chose. But that, and this is a very individualized process. And it really depends on, the age of your dog, the activity. There's so many different factors. And like all insurances, there's a whole host now of different types of insurance. So we were trying to compare things that worked for us. But the one that I use, really, I have to say, was a real easy process. And speaking back to AI, I have an app for my insurance. I sent, it says, hi, this is blah, 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 your AI assistant. And she's whoever it was, he or she, not sure how they identified. But I sent, send the invoices electronically, send any records you have. So I sent everything, that I possibly had, because I said, whatever you need just to get me some money back for this. And okay, they figured out. Then there's a way to track it. It says, claim received, in review. It gives you an update about where things are going. And it had to be just a couple of days. They wanted some other little documents, so I called the hospital. They sent it over, and then they, reimbursed us, for what was covered. And it was interesting because I even had a question, because I was confused why, like, it didn't seem like enough was covered on one of the claims, because I had a couple. And they said, well, that was because we don't blah 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 blah. And it was very clear. So I was able to understand, what was and wasn't covered. And maybe for next time when we redo it, maybe I would include, it was like a specific exam from the vet. You can include that too. So it's really, it is something worth having. And everyone that I told my experience to, they all were like, did you have pet insurance? Thank God, that's safe. So it made me feel good to listen. I spent $30 on crazy things. This way, I'd rather spend it on something that I know, could be there if, God forbid, we need again. Hopefully we never do. But
How do
that's
you determine, like, that's a world I know zero about. Um, how do you figure out what pet insurance company to use?
so there's
Are there a
so many
lot of them?
websites. Yeah, there's a good amount. And
Uh,
luckily we talked to people. So it was a lot of word of mouth, right? So we
yeah.
were, and then online they compare different things. And even at our vet, there was, like, some little brochure that kind of told you, the different things. So we were back and forth on a lot, and it was obviously on cost, because we're like, okay, this is now another bill we need to add to our world. So we were trying to really figure that out too. So there's so many different things, and even if you just Google it, they can compare kind of based upon stuff that you might need. But I do think it is worth it. So
Yeah,
I
I'm
think
asking
it's
that.
good.
I have a friend who had two 14-year-old dogs, still has them, but now all of a sudden, 5,000 for this one, 6,000 for that one, whatever. And if your dog is part of your family, which in a lot of
yeah,
cases it is, you're not too quick
yeah.
to put the dog down.
Hmm.
So it becomes a very, very expensive proposition.
Well,
And
I
they
like
do,
what Christina was saying too, Otto, was she checked with her vet. I mean, just like
right.
human beings,
Right,
you want to go to a doctor that hopefully takes your insurance. So,
right.
that might be
Hmm.
a
Right.
good way too.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just but it is something, and I never, this is a totally new world for me. I always say to everyone, I was not someone who had pets ever, so this is like a whole new thing. And I'm just really thankful that we did get that insurance because you do hear these numbers and you're like, oh my gosh, and especially when it gets to an illness kind of situation, it's very, very difficult. So, I definitely recommend the pet insurance. So that's my 2 cents. So go for it. I just want to remind people too, we have so many different social groups and support groups that are meeting. Call 311 for any of those dates as well. I'm currently wearing my Halloween shirt because we are approaching the Halloween weekend, and in North Hempstead, there's a lot of fun little things going on. And if I could find them. So we have, if you're listening to this on Friday, October 27th and Saturday, October 28th, there's the spooky walk in North Hempstead, and then the not so spooky walk is Sunday, October 29th. The spooky walk itself is really for older kids. There's a lot, it's a great walk through Clark Botanic Garden, but there's going to be things popping out at you and different spooky things. So you certainly should go with an adult if you are, not old enough. The cost of admission is $5 per person. And then on the not so spooky walk, if there's sport activities, arts and crafts, more, that is also $5 per person. So definitely a fun little thing to check out if you are in North Hempstead. And I always it was one of my first dabbles into some Halloween festivities when I was a child. So really, really fun stuff. Let's see what else I had. I wanted to promote. If I could find it here. Oh, the STOP program. That is, mark your calendars, Sunday, November 19th at North Hempstead Beach Park. 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Otto, will you be attending the STOP program this go around?
Probably will. Somehow I always manage to accumulate stuff, and shredding. I have a shredder, but I kind of gave up on using the shredder.
Agreed.
Because it spills over, and
it is. And I feel like I just burn out my shredder left and right. It's not really, it's like, the amount of paper, and then they're not, they're really just for a couple of things. You can't do like a whole bunch at one time.
Now if I have paper and it's marginal as far as shredding goes, maybe there's like one piece of information, I just throw it in the shredder box. I don't give it too much thought. So
I like it. I always like Otto shredder box. But in addition to there, you could bring aerosols, household chemicals, pesticides, disinfectants, fertilizers, bulbs, thermostats, rechargeable and lithium batteries, TVs and computers. Of course, Otto had mentioned about the shredding. You are allowed to bring 6 legal boxes per vehicle per day. There's also some gently used working clothes, stuffed animals, electronics, toys, sporting equipment, shoes, books, small area rugs, bikes, scooters, luggage, picture frames, you name it. There's so many different things. And you're able to kind of drive to each little station, which I love. Once again, Sunday, November 19th, North Hempstead Beach Park, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. So mark that down, everyone. And then also coming up, I believe there is still some spots, but you can call 311 for the Veterans celebration. That is November 3rd, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Clinton G. Martin Park. It's for North Hempstead veterans from all branches of the military are invited to attend this free luncheon. So definitely call 311 for that.
All right. Well, I can't believe it, but that's it for Project Independence in You, Community Talk Radio. We're at the end of the show. So another great show, another great guest. Thank you so much to Michelle for joining us today, and also Kristina for putting together such a great show, and Dan and Otto, thanks so much. Next week's going to be another great show. Hope everybody has a great weekend. You're listening to Project Independence in You, Community Talk Radio on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. Have a great day, all.